my 5 chosen creative startups, which are London-based. Number 1, Soundcloud, who I see some heads nodding. Yep. Just a little note, they're based in London and Berlin. The founder's actually UK, Swedish background. And here's the problem that these guys are solving. So traditionally, if you were producing sound, you would have to get it heard either on the TV, on radio, when the internet came along, on a podcast. Or it would be a concert. Or you would actually tell it a poetry reading, a story reading, or you would produce a record, a tape, a CD, or something to download. So the problem was all of these methods were very expensive. You don't know if you sound good until you make this, until people start buying. It's a very, very big sunk cost. It's a lot of time. Now, what you can do is just share your sound. You upload something even from this thing, a mobile. I can record some sound for 5 minutes here, get it online in a few seconds, or I could try singing. And the point is, this allows you to do something very, very interesting, people, because you get to discover sound that is from anybody and everybody. So you get a great thing happening. You have Linkin Park up here, you have Snoop Dogg here, and has anybody heard of a guy called Johnny Ripper? Anyone heard of him? No? No? What about Tim Preble? You see, you would never have heard of them without this. So this is great. This is fantastic. And what these guys do so creatively, I think, is they don't just say, okay guys, here's a website, go run wild. They put people through master classes. They really let people actually overcome the things that stop them putting sound and actually getting it up there online very, very quickly. So for me, this is very interesting because it opens up that long tail of people who can actually create sound. It's like Netflix. Before Netflix, you could only go to Blockbuster and get the most popular movies. You couldn't find that thing that you've been searching for years and years and years. Netflix doesn't cost you anything to actually keep it up in the cloud. Everybody around the world can grab it. And then you get lots of revenue from that long tail. So everybody, pretty much with an internet connection and a device, can now be a sound artist. And the last thing is obviously the way that they're so creative in keeping their users engaged. So if you want to find out more, so soundcloud.com, and you can actually start doing this yourself. Okay, number 2, Open Brand, much smaller company, much newer. Has anybody heard of them? No? Okay. Here's a problem they're solving in one slide. So I'm sure you guys all have a company logo of some sort, or a company document. Now, your company logo is probably somewhere in a JPEG. It's probably somewhere in a PDF, maybe not using the right format. It's probably somewhere on your intranet, and it's probably somewhere on paper. Is it being used properly? Is it actually in the right format? Does everybody in your company know how to use it? Well, probably not. And this is how the landscape looks. And when you add the fact that you have a company, you have a digital designer, you have their PR company, you have their marketing agency, the whole thing becomes a mess. So these guys, what they've done is actually applied the principles of product management, or anything where you have a structure with one person in the middle and everything organized very, very clearly around the side. So from this mess, you've gone to something which looks a lot more simple. So essentially, they're building a collaborative space for these people who are all in different places working on actually the same thing and putting it into that one place with multiple descriptions. So to have a look, what they've actually done is understood the problem from the inside. One of the founders of the business actually faced this problem, and so they built a solution for him. And if any of you are designers or if anybody has seen great design work, it's the attention to detail that makes it great. These guys have paid so much attention to detail, they're very, very thorough, and that's actually what really makes their business. Now, they're also applying norms from other activities going on. So this project management and the actual collaborative space is a massive thing going on right now. So if you guys have heard of a company called Yammer, for example, they're really, really tearing down the space in getting people to collaborate inside their organization and using something like an internal Facebook to do it. So they've cottoned onto this, and I think this is actually a startup that is going to be pretty successful. So openbrand.com for more. If you work in the creative space, would really recommend them actually. Okay, now this is another company that I would say is slightly different, and again creative in a different way. They're called Renew. And they're building a network of displays inside the City of London. But why is it quite creative, I find? They're doing it with recycling bins. I mean, they've taken bins in the City of London and they've turned them into televisions to actually serve advertising to the most economically valuable demographic in the whole of the UK. And remember, London is the financial capital of possibly the world, you know, the most interesting demographic to advertisers anywhere. And they've actually been not exactly creative in their approach, but very, very driven by the data. So they haven't just said, you know, here's a bin, it's great, people look at it. From the very, very beginning, they've understood their target audience, so they've taken that creativity, which is a very, very nice interface, putting in lots of data, which is interesting to these people, which is much better than advertising, and they're actually plugging it in to these things, serving these people, using pretty stuff that catches their eye. So for me, you know, it's a bin. How many people wake up one day and they say, you know what, I'm going to make millions from a bin? This is fantastic. And the other thing is, everybody else just thinks, we'll reach these people through a magazine. I'll put my Rolex watch adverts into a magazine. That's the done thing. They've really got outside the box here, and there's many more features on the way, which I'm not sure I can talk about. But these things where you just used to put your newspaper into is just a bin that is going to keep on giving. It's going to give people much more actual quality of life when they walk past. So they are renewsolution.com if you want more. Now, Housewives, another relatively new startup in London. And the problem is, or the problem as I see it, is chefs work a very long time in London. People eat out a lot because they have very high disposable income. So I think it's probably 3, 4, 5 times as expensive as in Lisbon, maybe, to eat it, if you agree. And so they work maybe 16 hours a day. They're running to the ground, and you know, for many of them, the income is not that great, the quality of life is not great, so they want something a little bit better. On the demand side, the London consumer and everybody flying in, they want quality, always. And in a recession as well, that's much more difficult to serve. And food prices have skyrocketed. So what do? These guys have started takeaways, but actually they're made in the home. So instead of a chef cooking in a restaurant for 16 hours a day, or actually starting their own takeaway up, these guys have made it very, very easy for them to start a business from home, actually doing what they do, and they're delivering the food. So here we are. You get a profile, and everything that you might be scared of, i.e., you know, am I going to get poisoned? Has their house been checked? It's all been done. So registered food business, yep, they've thought of that, they've registered them. Hygiene certification, very important, they've registered them for that. Now the customer rating, 4.8 out of 5 for this chap. And his biography is fantastic. You know, I trained here, I've actually lived in Italy, the customer reviews are fantastic. So this is a takeaway happening from this person's home and people in their local community actually buying from them. And then they take their best guys and they help them to make even more money to stay with the website, because the point is, okay, you take one meal from them, why don't you just call them up the next time and order from them directly and bypass the whole system? But you stay in the system as a chef because they can get you great work, and that work will come to you if you're a great chef with the reviews on the site. So I call this the Airbnb for takeaways. If you guys know Airbnb, they took that problem of renting out your apartment to something very small. So one big problem they found is actually the photos that people take of their own apartment is terrible. When you sign up your apartment with Airbnb, they send a photographer to your house to make it look amazing, and you get people coming around. I mean, that was the one biggest problem from actually people coming round to somebody's house and renting it. So I think they have done something very, very similar here. It also really ticks the boxes for the economic situation in England. And that is that takeaways are a massive market because eating out is so expensive. Eating local is a big thing. We're all trying to cut down on petrol miles. And eating healthy is a big thing as well in the UK. And also supporting small businesses, both for the consumer and the corporate customer, is a massive thing at the moment. So I think they've really got it spot on, and they've really solved this problem very, very creatively. So that is housewives.com if you want to know more. And then the last one, marketsinvoice. So it's actually not creative at all, but I think they solve a very interesting problem, which is really stopping a lot of people actually growing a business, and they've gone about it again very interestingly. So the problem is, you send your client an invoice, you're doing their work, and they're not paying you. My accounts department, I'm sorry it's delayed a bit, I'm sorry I'll be with you in a week's time, I'm sorry I'll be in a month's time. Your business is suffering, maybe you don't want to hire somebody else into your business or invest in something because you don't know when that money's going to come. So you wait, and you wait, and you think, is there a better way, right? Is there a better way to not just sit around and have this uncertainty? Now, marketsinvoice is a system where you put that unpaid invoice onto the market, and people who are investors actually bid for it. So they say, I will pay you that invoice for an additional service charge. So of course, you will obviously pay some high interest potentially on that, but you're not sat there thinking, is that money ever going to come at all? Or what can I do over these next few days? You can actually get right on with your business, and it hasn't been easy for them to actually crack that mentality. What they've done is been very careful with how they've selected the people they work with, and this is how they've got over that barrier of actually getting people onto the platform. So, why is that interesting? You are creatively financing your business in a controlled way. And the investors in turn get great returns. For some of them, they want to invest in a business, but they're too hung up on the risks. This lets them start actually getting in there, helping businesses that need some kind of cash flow, but not actually throwing all their eggs in one basket. And there's certainly lots of time, not lots of businesses, there's lots of uncertainty which remains not there at all, and therefore you can move forward faster. So that's marketsinvoice.com for more. So that was 5. So thank you. And these slides will go on slideshare.com as well. I guess we'll make them available to everybody who came along to the meetup, and if you want to stay in touch, that's me on Twitter, but I'll be around as well. So good, great to see you here. Thank you very much.